Me running away from my wedding?
Yeah. We found out about that from Colleen.
We should get her over here.
Yeah, that was bad. I don't think your dad appreciated that much.
Okay, there, Michaela, you can ask your question again.
Grandma, tell us about running away from your wedding.
I had Colleen said, I'm sure you've heard this story. I'm like, oh no, I have never heard this story.
Yeah.
This is new. Please do tell. It wasn't the day of it wasn't the day of the wedding.
No, it was the night before.
It was the night before, huh?
Yeah. Yep, I was just,
Like, what the hell am I doing?
God, yeah.
How old were you, Grandma?
Huh?
How old were you?
19, I think.
19.
And how long had you and Dad been dating?
About 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, I knew it was not very long.
No,
so
it wasn't
there's
very
maybe a
long.
reason why were you.
I did not know that.
And were you going to Mary?
Huh?
Were you going to go see Mary? Is that where you
Yeah.
were going? And did you know she was coming?
No.
No.
Wait, but Mary wasn't going to be at the wedding?
No.
No.
I
it
wasn't invited.
It was quick.
I was working. I was out on the coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
And
think
where and what happened? You didn't make it there. Why did you not make it there?
That man followed the train.
You were on the train.
I was on the train on the way to my sister's. And
Just think you might not exist.
I know, right?
huh?
I might not exist, she said, if Dad hadn't followed you.
And he caught me in Missoula, and I got off the train because I thought, oh, I should call him.
Oh, before you even knew he was there, you got off the train.
Yeah,
You were going to go call him and he was at the train station.
and he was there, and I went, oh my God, and fell apart. And didn't know what else to do but go with him.
So he kidnapped you and made you marry him.
He kidnapped me off the train.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
And you were getting married the next day?
Yeah. Supposed to.
And did you still?
Yeah.
She did it. Who stood up for you? Do you remember? Colleen and I were trying to remember. I know you told me at one point, but I don't remember.
Oh, I think it was Gary and Mary Wysong.
Yes, that sounds
Some
right.
friends of Nick's.
Well, and I didn't realize that Colleen and Bill were already married, and that you all four knew each other in Bozeman.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that because Brady met Bill here a few months ago or a year ago, and Brady said he was from Hinsdale, and Bill said, "Oh, I knew a guy from Hinsdale. I went to college with a guy from Hinsdale."
Helton? Yeah.
Yeah, and Brady's like, "Oh yeah, that'd be my grandpa."
That's
And I thought it was,
world.
I just thought it was curious that was his connection and not Sharon, not you, but I didn't realize that Dad and Bill were good friends.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought they just knew each other
Well,
because of you
he
and Colleen.
connected Sharon
I
with
mean,
Absorption
did, but-
more than Hinsdale. Bill would have
Right.
Yeah.
connected her to
Yep.
Absorption more.
Yeah.
That's true.
Hinsdale, if he didn't know they had moved there, I don't know how much he kept track.
Right.
He might have kept track.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
you
know if we're there yet or not.
Yeah, you might have.
No, I
started
mean
recording.
when Brady met
Oh,
him.
right.
Oh,
You had definitely been there right then.
yeah.
Actually, she might
But
have been here
anyway,
or back
Mick
yeah.
was very upset. And he had trouble going through the wedding.
Oh.
And I was fine.
So he didn't run away, huh?
No, he didn't run away.
Oh goodness.
You got yours out of the way and then
He,
he was
he just
upset.
wanted to clobber me, I think.
So it wasn't like a
Didn't
big
know whether
romantic
I should
picture.
marry this woman or just knock her out.
So I believe one of your wedding presents was a saddle.
Huh?
No, it was a horse.
Was it a horse?
That was the engagement.
What was
Your
that?
engagement ring.
A horse?
Yeah, and then he sold it right away.
Because he was gonna buy you a ring, but in order to buy you a ring, he had to sell the horse, right?
Yeah.
And
And
you
I said I'd rather have the horse.
And then he sold it.
And then I didn't get anything.
Lesson learned.
Go figure. That's how it worked all the time.
5,000 steps in.
Oh, good job. Good job. Well, we were talking earlier, I guess, about the. I don't know if we covered that somewhere else, but the grandfathers, just the kind of the overall history of, because it was your grandfather and his brother that moved in first, Peter and Carl. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Were they the first ones that came here, or were their parents here?
No. Their parents. They were the ones that came.
Just the two of them?
I think so, with Carl and Peter. And Mary
Carl
and Tora.
Oh, there were two brothers
Two brothers.
who
two
married two sisters.
Yeah.
And
they homesteaded out on Beaver Creek.
where the Powers Ranch is now.
I don't know.
That's where Brady and Lisa got married there.
Oh, really?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe they said that the homestead was just across the river from where our ceremony was.
Yeah. It was cool. And the sisters were the Gaurstad brothers and
The sisters came from Trondheim when they were teenagers, when they were 18, or I don't know how. I don't know who was older, whether it was Mary or Tora.
and what was their last name again?
Bruin.
Bruin. Okay.
And then they took Brown
Right.
as a.
Was there a Mary Brown somewhere?
Yeah, Mary Brown was my grandmother. Then she married a Gaurstad and became Mary Gaurstad. And I was Mary Gaurstad and I married a Brown and I became Mary Brown.
Because we like to reuse names in this family.
Yeah.
Peter and Carl and
I guess,
Mary
yeah.
and Brown and. So your grandmother, who was married to who?
To Peter.
Oh, I thought you said it was Tora and.
Tora was married to Carl.
Oh, and Mary was married to Peter.
Yeah, Mary was married to Peter.
Okay, so Peter was the grandfather, not Carl.
No, Carl was Carlene's grandfather.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And her grandmother lived longer than my grandmother, so Carlene learned a lot of Norwegian words from her grandmother. And her father also spoke Norwegian at home, often.
And where did Peter and Carl come from? Were they from Norway also?
They were, but they were second generation.
Oh.
Their parents had come.
Oh, so their parents were where?
In Minnesota.
Minnesota, okay.
Yeah. So, and I don't know how they knew if they knew each other before they came, or if they met in Minnesota. But they all came from the same area in Norway, in the Bisnet or something like that, up by Trondheim.
And were they married before they got here? To Upsorky? Do you know?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure.
Right.
I think they might have been married in Minnesota.
So then Peter and Mary had Salvine and Julius. Just
Yeah.
the two boys?
No.
Oh yeah,
Marguerite,
Marguerite and
Pearl, and Louise. Yeah, 3 girls.
And Louise married an Egan,
Yeah.
and Marguerite married
Rathbun.
a Rathbun, and Pearl married a Flanagan.
Yeah.
And that's what I've always wondered. I knew that we were related to the Flanagans, but I never could quite put my finger on how. I knew they were cousins somehow, was all I knew.
And then one of Carl and Tora's daughters, Tora, married a Sutcliffe.
They had a daughter named her Tora.
Yeah.
Married a what?
Sutcliffe. Mike Sutcliffe.
Oh, right.
And Alma married. What was Alma's husband's name? I played taps at his funeral, but I can't remember his name right now and his last name. And Clara married Preston Blakely.
Okay, Clara Blakely.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I knew she was a relative too somehow, but I didn't know.
Clara? Yeah, she was.
Okay.
She
She
was
lived
part
on
of
the
the
corner
Carl.
down here by
Not on the corner, but
Near
right across
Hawkins.
from the school. 2 houses from the corner? Or 1? I don't know, it's right across from the school.
Down towards Hawkins Park anyway, right?
Yeah. Down whatever that main street is from there. So,
So she would have been your dad's first cousin.
yeah, double cousin.
Right. Double cousin.
We have to get that double cousin in there. And then I,
Did
Yeah.
you know that, Michaela?
I found out today
The
That-
brothers, marrying
the
sisters.
Flanagan family also had brothers marrying sisters.
Oh,
So
really?
they had double cousins. Because you look at the Flanagan's tombstones and you see John J. And then John J. And then John. And then
J.
Thomas. And Thomas. And another Thomas. It's like they were
Well, they're
very
creative.
They like to
Yeah.
reuse names too.
I
Yeah.
think that was kind of a Norwegian tradition in a lot of families.
Yeah.
Because like the Tunbys, they just go back and forth. Edward Christian, Edward Christian.
Yeah. And then your mom had a sister Sybil
Mhm.
and a couple of half brothers.
Yeah.
Right?
Arthur and Kenneth.
Fellows, right?
Bell.
Bell.
Fellows was Auntie's last
Auntie's
name.
Fellows,
Her
okay.
She was a Fairburn, and then she married a Fellows. And so Mom had a cousin Charles.
Yeah, I remember that name.
Yeah, Charles Fellows.
That was Auntie's son.
That was Auntie, yeah, and that was the only child they had was Charles. And let's see, what else?
Who was it that lived in the little house?
That was my my dad built that for my grandmother.
Okay.
She was living down in the apartments, which were down close to town, and
For
that
for
was
Mary?
her, Mary, yeah.
Okay.
And that was the house that we lived in was her original house, the log cabin part of it, the front part of it, which is a log cabin,
Mm.
covered over with siding now.
So the house was for Grandma, and then Auntie lived in it later, right?
Who?
Auntie? Didn't Auntie live in that little house?
No,
I thought that's what
Auntie who?
And
Fellows?
Auntie Fellows?
Yeah.
No, she had a little cabin down across from the swimming pool. A log cabin down there, and she lived in that log cabin. And I didn't know her husband at all. He wasn't alive in my memory, he may have been when I was little, but
Is that where she was when you? I remember the story, Mom, you told about Auntie, and you'd gotten into a little tiff with her when you were little.
was that Auntie or was that Grandma?
I think it was
I thought that was
Grandma
Aunt-
because
I
I
thought
think
that
it
was
was,
Auntie,
it was
That's
right
what I
here.
always pictured it was in this house. Maybe it was Grandma.
Yeah, it was
Maybe
Grandma.
your grandma.
Yeah, it was Grandma.
You said you go to your house and I'll go to mine.
Yeah.
Oh,
She
okay.
wasn't,
I always thought that story was about Auntie, but that was about
No, it was
Grandma.
Grandma.
wasn't she in the flower bed or something like that? I can't
I
remember.
don't remember exactly, but it was like, and my grandma was kind of a ornery and not
Gruff?
gruff, not really a real pleasant person, but she thought that was really cute. She really thought that was pretty clever. But she didn't like my mom. I think she was jealous of her, so she would have her temper tantrums around Mom. And so one day, she would break plates when she got mad.
Oh.
So my dad, she blew up at my dad, and my dad's like, "You want to break plates? Okay, we'll break plates." And he started taking out some of her favorite plates and breaking them. And she stopped doing that. She stopped breaking plates.
He
when she
called
got mad.
called her bluff a little
Yeah.
bit. Huh?
But she didn't get along with my mom. Oh, she told my mom, "You're gonna have stars in your crown when you go to heaven." So, I guess my mom was better than she was. She put up with a lot, so I don't know.
And Grandma taught school for ever, right?
She
Grade
taught.
school.
She taught. She taught school. She's one of the first. Her first job was teaching in a one-room schoolhouse, so where she had all the grades, different grades, and I'm not sure where that was. I'd have to talk to Pete.
Up country.
Up country, yeah. Because we have a picture of her in her wagon with a horse. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
think Charles was beside her, I'm not sure, but there was another little boy, it was a little black boy that was beside her. And they're getting ready to go for her first day of school, so. And I don't know where the black kid came from, because they didn't live around here, so.
I should,
Anyway.
I should be
But
able
once
to.
you got married, you couldn't teach anymore.
Oh.
So she stopped teaching, and then she had planned, I think she had planned to go back when Sharon started school, but they really wanted her to come. They really needed a teacher. And so Sharon was 5, and we didn't have kindergarten then, so she said she would do
I
it.
roamed the town.
5 years old, she gets Steve Odland with her and take him all and show him all the places in town, and then she showed him what was up on the hill.
Yeah.
And so everybody in town is looking for Sharon, and they're looking for Steve too, I guess, because he
Yeah.
wasn't anywhere around.
Partners in crime.
All over town, everybody's on alert to look for Sharon and Steve. And somebody looked up on the hill, and they saw these little.
Mom drove up there and then looked, and she could see these
Little heads, these little toe
little
heads,
heads
bobbing up and
bobbing.
down. They were walking in the ditch,
walking
which
in
was
the
empty.
ditch.
It was an empty ditch, but they
Yeah.
were walking in the ditch, and she was giving Steve a tour of the
Yeah.
hill. So, see, Dad was supposed to watch her, but he's trying to run the store, and
Yeah.
Grandma's always been good
Wasn't
at
there something? Wasn't there a
escaping.
story about a fire at this hardware store?
Junior and I were out
that's
there
right. Junior Rudenberg.
lighting cigarettes and stuff, and we started a fire and tried to stomp it out and didn't get it done, so had to go holler at Dad.
How old were you then?
5.
He's a wild child.
Lighting cigarettes on the head.
Yeah.
No, not on the
Yeah,
hill.
no,
Behind
behind
our
the store.
dad's hardware store.
On the
Picked
hill.
up cigarette butts
In
and
the middle of town.
Yeah, picking up cigarette butts along the side of the road was something that we did. I don't know why, because we could have maybe been better if we've got some of Dad's cigarettes or something. but
yeah.
I don't remember them ever laying around any place.
No, I don't
We
think
had to
they
go
were.
find our own. We had to scrounge them off the ground.
Yeah.
And how long did he have that hardware store? How long did he have
As long
the
as
hardware
I
store?
remembered until he died.
Yeah, he had it quite a while.
What was the name of it?
Absorki Hardware, Lumber.
Yeah.
Absorki Hardware,
Oh,
Lumber.
that's right. It was lumber too.
And it was, he moved it.
Yeah, it used to be up by close to where the creamery is.
Yeah.
And then he moved down to, moved closer to the, well, I guess the cobblestone garage. No, that's
Yeah.
the cobblestone. Is that the cobblestone down there? Anyway, further downtown. And it
When
was
we-
there for the longest period of
When we visited with Pete and Carl, did they say something about a hamburger stand once? I'm trying to remember.
There was a hamburger hut that
Yeah.
made really good hamburgers. That was run by Udenbergs.
Okay.
And it was in between the bank and post office, I think, somewhere in that area. Just a little tiny building. But I think they lived in the back of that, didn't they?
I don't know.
There was
Maybe.
something, I don't know, it was really small. But anyway, they ran that hamburger hut. Good hamburgers. Really good.
And you went to PLU and then taught there. Is that right?
What?
PLU. You went to there when Mary was teaching there, or were you
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
to school
The
there?
first year I was teaching, she came out as a
Did you
her
graduate
freshman
from
year.
there first though? Is that where you went to school?
No, she came.
No, you.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I
Where
went
did
to
you go to
PLU my first 2 years, and then I transferred to Augustana College in Sioux Falls.
Okay.
And then when I was a senior at Augustana, I was a teaching fellow. I a teaching assistant or whatever they call you. And I taught classes. I taught freshman classes, and I had a salary. I was paid, so I had to organize lesson plans and all that. So when I was ready to graduate, they had an opening at PLU, and so I wrote to my to the advisor, head of the department there, and she said, "Well, why don't you come and teach here?" I said, "We'd love to have you."
So how many years did you teach there?
To
And what was your degree in?
physical education. Yeah.
And then what did you do after that?
I got married and they kicked me out of PLU.
That was
Because
against
my
the
husband was not light enough. He was too dark.
And where did you live? Where was he from?
He's from Tacoma.
Wendell's from Tacoma.
He went to school at PLU. He had a track scholarship. In fact, he still has a record up on the record board
Oh, really?
for the 440 at PLU.
So were you teaching and he was in school?
He wasn't in school. He was hanging out. He was checking out the girls.
And he found one.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So then you lived in Tacoma.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember that. And then, when did you go to Nigeria?
In 73 or 74, I think, 74.
Okay, so you're Russell.
He got
was
his he had a college friend that went into the Peace Corps, and he was in Kenya. And then after he was in Kenya, he went to Nigeria, and he became a citizen actually of Nigeria. He decided he was going to stay there.
Wendell's friend.
Yeah, and so when they got their oil money, started getting that oil money in, they decided that they were going to build their track programs all over the country. And the Kano State, which is in the north, they wanted Wendell to come and coach the state track team. So they hired him, and in the meantime, I had joined the Tacoma Police Department, and I was thinking about staying there. And then Wendell convinced me to come over there, and so the girls and I, we didn't go over until, I think he had been there about 6 months or so, and then we finally got our visas, and then we went over there, and we were supposed to be there for 4 years. We were there for about 2, and we lived in a hotel the whole time.
Oh, really?
Except unless someone went on holiday, then we would stay in their house while they were gone, and then we would go back to the hotel. We came back to the U.S. On holiday once, and then went back. And then there was a lot of unrest in the country. Just before we came, the leader of the country left Nigeria and went to England because he knew he was going to be put out.
Oh, wow.
And so then they elected another president, and partway into the period of time we were there, he was killed on his way to work, to the palace or wherever he went. So that was a bloody coup. So all of the people that caused that coup were lined up on the beach and shot, and then somebody else took over as president. And it was kind of, they had curfews out at night, and they would stop cars for no reason, basically. So we were not really unsafe, because they didn't bother expatriates. They just bothered people who were from a different tribe. And Kano is a Muslim area of Nigeria, whereas down in other areas there's a lot of different Christian groups, but there are so many different tribes in Nigeria. There's the Fulani and the Yoruba, and these are major ones, in Igbo, and then many others, offshoots of those. Many languages. So, when the British came in and made that a colony, they had to meld all those people together somehow. So they're still working on it, They're still working on being a country. It's not easy to make it so everybody's happy.
Right.
It's bad enough here with political parties, but there it's like, so.
That had to have been crazy living over there. That would have.
So we came back,
Quite
and
an
the girls and
experience.
I stayed in Montana for a while. We stayed with Carl.
Was that here?
Yeah,
Or where-
down across from the swimming pool.
Oh, yeah.
And the girls went to school
Because
there for a
Carl,
while.
I just wasn't sure because Carl wasn't always here. He lived somewhere else for a while, didn't he? Or no?
Yeah, when he was working construction
Yeah.
at those times.
Never.
But,
very
but
long.
most of the time he lived here.
Yeah.
So was
Once he
never
met
gone to that.
Sharon, his first wife, he lived here pretty much from then
Yeah.
on.
And Sharon's the one who had Greg when they got
Yeah.
married, right? And then John came along.
So Carl never had any kids.
No.
He just had two adopted.
But he got to help raise Seabrans, so.
I tell you, Sebring said Carl was mean. It's hard to believe, but he had a
Well,
mean
John
streak.
was his legal child.
Yeah, but he wasn't his.
Just not biological.
Yeah, he didn't adopt him. He was listed as the father on the
Yeah.
birth certificate. Yeah,
He just wasn't actually.
he was actually some high school kid. Sharon
The
was-
neighbor across the street or something, wasn't it?
they knew who he was.
Yep.
Those people knew. He was down there at their house all the time.
Yep.
He looked like them. Didn't look like Augusta.
Yep.
So.
And
Anyway,
And then after Sebring and Marge divorced, how long was it after they divorced that Carl and Marge
well, I
got
don't know
married?
because Marge moved back here and Carl was helping her, and I think he let her.
Because they were living somewhere else?
They were
Or
back
Sebring
in North Carolina.
Oh, that's where Sebring and Marge were when the kids
Yeah.
were all, okay.
That's where Steve met Jan,
Oh, right.
and
Because they had lived here for a while and then moved down there.
they.
And then she came back.
Well,
Yeah,
Steve
they
was.
lived in
he was-
Bozeman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was going to school in Bozeman, and then he got a scholarship to go study for his PhD in North Carolina.
So you went down there for
Yeah,
school?
they lived in a trailer down here for a while, but that was probably while I was finishing high school. Yeah. Crazy, and I don't know how long it was before Carl and Marge got married. I know Carl had had a crush on Marge for for years, and he really admired her.
And how long were they married?
I don't even know that, do you? It was a few
I think under 10 years.
years. Yeah, but it was a good
Yeah.
deal of
I think
time.
she's in Billings now.
Hmm?
Marge is in Billings now.
We went to see her.
Oh, really?
When Sharon was in the spring and I came to stay with her,
Oh.
we went and knocked on her door.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know if I knew that.
Yeah.
And she came to the door and we're like, "Can I help you?" And we were like, "Don't you know us?" "No." "Mary and Sharon."
Oh my goodness.
Gaurstad. So she invited us in and she showed us all the pictures of her wonderful family and
And you went, they look familiar.
you know James he's a handsome guy. They're all nice looking, but James is like
Yep.
Yeah.
I
really
always had a crush on Jamie. He was cute.
yeah.
Your cousin?
I was
Well,
6.
David married his cousin, the first marriage he had. He married his first cousin.
Oh, really?
He married Marge's sister's daughter.
Oh.
Yeah, they were married for a while, and
Yeah.
then they got a divorce, and David married. What was her name?
I
Bev?
don't know.
Anyway, she recently died. She recently died. I think she had Parkinson's.
I have no clue.
Somebody just told me that today. I'm trying to think who it
Oh.
was. Yeah, with the call, because I didn't know. I had seen her on Facebook, but Jean told me, and she's supposed to give me David's number so I can call him and see if because he just lives. I think he lives in Everett.
Oh, really?
I think so. I think he was
Yeah,
working for Boeing.
I think he's pretty close.
Yeah, I'd like to see him. He was our little guy, and we took all over town along with Billy. We took
Last time I was at Hillary's, she had a bunch of pictures on a computer that must have been her dad's or
Yeah.
something. And so we looked through. Michaela was with me, I think, and we looked through a bunch of those pictures.
Yeah, Jean said Marge's children have nothing to do with her, and she has nothing to do with them.
Hillary was just up visiting her not too long ago.
Oh,
so,
she did? Okay.
So she at least sees some of the grandkids
Okay.
once in a while.
It's a little bit
She's
easier
a little
for
hard
grand-
to deal with, I think. the way-
Oh, just a little bit. You know, I can remember when we were staying with Carl, the girls and I, and Greg and Mike were living there, and they would just get up in the morning and sit down and eat and watch cartoons, and Carl's out doing all this stuff. And I just got on their case and I said, you know what, you guys need to stop doing that. You need to get out and help Carl. He put up with both of your mothers, and they just and they treated him like crap. And here you are sitting here doing nothing while he's out there working. They were both pretty. I don't know how long Greg's been mad at me, but Mike was pretty upset with me for quite a while. But he tried really hard with his mom. He really tried hard. And he finally just said, can't do it anymore. So she just had she had issues, mental issues.
Yeah.
But I got along with her pretty well for a while. She told us that I didn't divorce you guys, I just divorced your brothers. So I have nothing against you.
So
She
Carl was married twice.
he was married three
Three
times.
times.
Then he married Gina.
First
Okay.
he rescued Sharon Lee, we
Where
called
did he
her.
rescue Sharon from?
A cafe, she was a waitress in a cafe in Billings. So he rescued
Or was it Hardin?
somewhere
Yeah.
east. And then he rescued Marge. And then
And then
Jenny.
he rescued
I said,
Jenny.
I said Gina, didn't I?
Jenny.
Ginny.
yeah, because Jenny's husband was a piece of work.
Yeah.
And she and Carl were friends. She and Marge were friends. Carl was friends. And she would bring over like cash for Carl to keep for her so that her husband wouldn't get a hold of it. And because she knew she could trust him, you know. And they just gradually got close. And then Carl and I were the godparents for Aaron. Because I was living here then, I guess, because otherwise I wouldn't have been. But yeah, and then they finally got married, and they were married for a little while.
Yeah.
And then she left with a trucker, I think.
Did somebody just tell me that they've been in contact again recently?
They have been, yeah. In fact,
Yeah.
Carl just said something to me about Jenny. Jenny says I'm a hoarder. I said,
Of
"Why would
everyone
you
in the
know?
family.
Why would she think that? So he had 3. Steve had 3. I had 2. Sybil had 1. Pete had 1.
And one of theirs was
And
the
Sharon had 1.
And a half.
That's not a marriage. You can make a living.
Hey, I want to go for half a second.
Well, yeah, how have you been? You're just such a rascal.
She's interrupted.
So how about we haven't touched on Wendy and Noelle at all. Do we have any good Wendy and Noelle stories?
Well,
My favorite Wendy and Noelle story was getting chewed out by Aunt Mary because we went out and played in the straw stack. And they ended up with straw all in their hair. And we
Oh,
were
God,
like, what's
yeah.
the big deal? And oh my, it was
Yeah,
a
it was a big deal.
it was a lot harder to get out of their hands than yours. I remember.
I understand now. At the time, I didn't get what the problem was.
I remember a story with you and Wendy.
Oh boy.
I don't know what she had done, but you just said, "I just wish I had never met you."
Oh jeez. A little harsh.
Oh, she was probably just following you everywhere you went. And just,
I was
On top
telling
of
Mom
you.
on the way down here, I think every time I drive down to Absarki, I think of I couldn't tell you why we were in the car coming from Hinsdale to Absarki, but I think it was you and Mom in the front seat and Wendy and I in the back seat. And I don't think anybody else was with us. And we must have been being a pain about when are we going to get there? When are we there? Are we there yet? Are we almost there? And so I think you guys told us every stop along the way, every possible stop, and so we would like recite it over and over. And then when we got to Absarki, we would sit up forward in the seat and we would go, and Absarki! And we'd throw ourselves in the back of the seat.
I tell you, it was really a blessing to spend the time we did coming out to visit, because we made connections that we wouldn't have made otherwise. You know, we just
Oh yeah, Wendy and
And-
Noelle were my favorite cousins.
yeah.
I loved it
And
when
remember,
you guys came to visit.
Noelle stayed there that one summer for quite some time.
Yeah.
And Sharon got so mad at me because I called to talk to her one time, and I told her we were camping. And all of a sudden, Noelle wanted
She
to
wanted to
go
go home.
home and go camping. She said, why did you tell her that? Why did you have to tell her that? We were doing just fine. Had to tell her that. Now, Wendy would never have stayed because
No.
she was
No.
a home girl. But Noelle was fine with that. She was okay with staying someplace like that. And
Yeah, she
Tori
was-
was like that too. She could stay just about anywhere.
Yeah.
5 years old, and she was spending the Christmas vacation with the Tills at a cabin up in Leavenworth. No problem. They said if she has a problem, we could meet halfway and bring her back. And no, she was happy.
Well, how old was she when we were here and she just came home with us? Was that
Was that?
She was about
when I was
recent one.
9.
10, yeah, she was
Yeah,
9 or
she
10.
just-
It was 2009 because that's when I broke my arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, she was fine with that. And then was that when she flew back on the airplane? To Billings?
I don't remember.
I think she was older than that then. Oh, that was when we came out to go up to Hell Roaring I stayed here with Sharon, and she went back with you guys.
Oh, right, when she
Yeah.
was 15.
Yeah.
Because that was when I wrecked the boat on my birthday.
You're very accident
I was
prone.
gonna say, yeah.
That wasn't that one?
Must have been Tori's fault. She was there both times.
I don't think she was there when the arm was broke.
Yes, she was.
She was
Alright.
because I got bucked off the horse and I'm crying and Mom's like, "Stop crying! You're gonna scare Tori." And I'm just here holding my broken arm.
Sent her to the house.
It was
you go to the
not
house.
only broken; it was also dislocated.
Yes,
wasn't
it was
it?
also dislocated.
Did you know it was broken?
No, I just hurt. And my mom's like, "Stop crying! Go to the house."
So then she calls me from the house on my cell phone.
It didn't stop
and
hurting.
she can't talk because
yeah.
it hurts so much, and she's crying. It's like, okay, I suppose I should
Mm.
probably take it off.
God. Taking better care of your.
Yeah, and
But I hope I didn't scare Tori.
I just remember the one time where Tyson wanted to jump off the horse and you were yelling at him, "Don't you jump off that horse!"
She was yelling at him?
Well, yeah, because I think something spooked the horse. It's just a little bit, or there's a car or something, so the horse just didn't really do anything.
number one rule: don't get off the horse.
Yeah, and he was just like up there, like, you know,
Ready to
we were
bail.
all on horses, and he was just gonna
Was that
jump
when
off.
when we did the trail ride?
Yeah, yeah. You jump off that horse.
No, you do not.
Yes. Number one rule: don't get off the horse.
That was a time that Tyson has never forgotten when we came up to and stayed with you when I came out with them when they were, 10 and 8 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. He still talks about that. There are times when he wanted to just come out and live with you.
Yeah. I credit Noelle with introducing me to coffee because I know when we came out to Seattle when I was 11, she was like, "You've got to try a latte. It's the most wonderful thing
When
ever."
you were 11,
Yes.
how old was she?
Well, she's a little older.
She's been doing it.
A couple years.
Yeah,
older.
she was
She
only
did it
like
to
13,
me.
She's been the
14.
coffee connoisseur.
She did it to me because I was working at a Nevsot stand, and she like taught me how to make coffee, and I would work there. But he would go back to Turkey, and I would be there by myself for 14 hours when I was 14 or something like that in Skyway, which probably wasn't the best. But yeah, that's.
So
what
now
I-
she's doing straight shots.
I have 4 shots of espresso a day.
Oh my.
That's terrifying.
I started with like caramel macchiatos, lots of
Right.
sugar and stuff, and eventually as I got
Well,
older.
it didn't
You
work
just
so
did
well for me
stick the
because
shot
she
in
didn't
injected
straight
straight
in
into
how
the
to order
vein.
it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
said get a latte, so I just ordered a latte.
And then I'm
And
like,
it had no
one outside,
flavoring,
so
no
just take
sugar,
that
no.
one.
It was horrible. I'm like,
Just kept
why
going
would you
from there.
drink these things? So I was, much older when I finally decided I liked coffee. 'Cause
What are you doing?
I should
No.
have just had her order it for me.
Exactly, yeah. I was wishing I had told Barbara reminded Barbara of the story when we were up on the hill. Carlene and Barbara and Sybil and I went up on the A hill to do what? I don't know.
Change something?
We weren't changing
No?
anything because I don't think I don't think they were doing that at that time. But we started throwing rocks down the hill. And Barbara picked up this big rock, and Carlene's hands were up somehow, and she hit Carlene in the hand with the rock, or the rock hit Carlene's hand. And Carlene started crying, and we're like, "Is it broken? Is it broken?"
And how old were you?
I don't know. We were probably about 10 maybe, and they were, what would they be? 4 years older? No, 3 years, anyway, a little bit older. And Barbara was on her case about crying. it doesn't hurt. And we said, is it broken? She said, I don't know. And I said, can you move it? She said, no. She was shaking her head. No, I can't move it. And so then we were all laughing, which didn't help her feeling better. But Joe said to me something about Barbara today. Oh, we were talking about how Carlene really loved to come out here and stay with Irish in the summer. And I said, she would have lived with Irish. You know, Irish really...
And who is Irish?
Irish was her aunt, her dad's sister. And he was sick at the time. And so Irish said, why don't you send Carlene out here with me and just take a little pressure off of, because she had the baby, she had Carol, and you could just have their time to take care of the baby and I'll keep Carlene. And I said, she would have lived with her. And Joe says, I know. And she said, can you blame her? Was a sister she because Barbara, it seems like Barbara was mean to her whole life. And Barbara told me today, she said, we were talking about how Carlene was before she got to the end point, and she said, I said, you know, I talked to her just not too long before the daughters called me and told me she had passed away. And she was so cheerful, and she talked to me for the longest time, and she just said, I just had the feeling just wanted to call and talk to you. And we talked about old times and all kinds of stuff. And she said, and then Barbara told me, she said, I talked to her quite a few times and she would be fine, and then all of a sudden she would start crying. And I would ask her what was wrong. She said, I don't know. And I wanted to say, she was probably crying because she was dying and you're not. I wouldn't say that, but she just had such a hard time with that woman. Yeah. You know, Carlene's folks lived next to them in Junction City for quite a while, and then they moved back to Billings to stay with Barbara. And Ivy was getting sick. She was getting, I don't know, I think she had cancer. Barbara got her to change her will to leave everything to her, and to leave her dad out of the will, and to leave the rest of the kids out of the will. And because she had a will that was, you know, things would go to Jim first and then divide it up. So
yeah, that was awful.
Yeah. And so Carlene was pretty upset with that for a while, and she finally said, I just had to let it go and get over it.
Yeah.
But also Barbara was taking things that her mother had. She said, I want this. And Carlene said, but I got that for Mom. I gave that to her, so couldn't I have that? But yeah, I don't know what it was. But I was telling...
It's a major sibling rivalry, huh?
So yeah, I was telling somebody, you know, Carlene was the middle of sisters. She was the middle sister. I was the middle sister. I know how it feels to be vying for attention and for things. So I always competed against my older brothers with Pete and Steve to try to match what they did in school and everything, you know. But I don't remember feeling... Sybil was kind of mean to me sometimes, but I probably deserved it. And I was probably mean to her. She deserved it too. So she told me I knocked her tooth out once, and I don't remember it. So I think
you just chipped it.
Oh, okay. Because why did I hit you?
I don't know, but I laughed when you hit me the first time. You hit me again.
That is a very sibling
then
thing.
it hurt.
Yeah. Russell did
I
that
got in
same
trouble,
thing to me.
didn't I?
Yeah.
I spent most of my childhood playing with dolls and paper dolls and things with Sharon, or running all over the hills and playing cowboys and Indians with Sebring. So those were my two companions in my growing up years in the family. Sybil and I didn't do much together, but we did a lot of all family things like skating and picnicking, and we didn't go very far. We went to Helena once to see Marge and Louie. I think that's the farthest trip we ever made.
Yeah.
And most of it was backcountry roads and picnics and skating in the winter and things like that.
Carlene went to Norway with you?
And Carlene went to, yeah, I got a teacher's exchange to Norway for 5 weeks. And I said, and I knew other teachers who had gone over there had taken family members or somebody else because they put us in a hotel. And so I asked if it was okay if I invited my cousin, and they said sure. So I asked her if she wanted to go. And Camilla and Jack both told me, she said, I don't know if I should go, should I go? And they were saying, you should go. And so she finally did, and we met at the airport, and we had a really good time, really good time. We walked all over Bergen, and
It's quite a town, isn't it?
I love it. Yeah, went up on the
The lift to the top.
yeah, and walked around up there, and then we went during their spring break where schools aren't going on. I had nothing to do. I didn't have any schools to visit, so we got on the train and went to Oslo, and then we went up north and went up to Trondheim where our ancestors came from. And my exchange teacher had a brother-in-law and sister-in-law who lived up there in one of those big old houses, the big old long ones, just big long, can't even remember what they call them now, but just, and it was a historic one, and so they were allowed to live in it and keep it historical, and so we stayed in that, and then we went all around to different places. We went to this one forest where apparently the Germans would just take prisoners. They weren't Norwegian prisoners, I think they were from another country, and they would take them into the forest and shoot them and bury them there. I'm telling you, when I walked in there, it was like chills down my spine. It just felt
Eerie.
really weird. Yeah, and they had them marked out on the different places along the way where they were buried. I think they had moved them, but yeah. And the schools had bomb shelters where kids could go into these bomb shelters.
Were they older, or were they like more? When were they built? Were they built?
They were in their newer schools.
Oh.
Yeah. They have such a history of being invaded, and there was a Allied plane that came over the hill. They had a big memorial where it came over the hill toward the harbor, and the bombs dropped too soon, and it just wiped out a whole school.
Oh.
And it was just like,
So that's
yeah,
why.
devastating.
Although I don't know if you would have
There
time
probably
to go
wouldn't
in
be
there.
time now. You wouldn't know it was coming. That would have been a
Yeah,
total
it's terrible.
surprise.
But it's a neat place. They have a lot of rules, but it works for them. They're happy people.
I think Brady said he had people asking him directions and said they were pretty sure he was
They just come up to me on the street and start speaking Norwegian, and I'm like, I know I look it, but I'm in Carhartt Wrangler and Ariat boots. Like, I'm not dressed like you. And I think my accent almost threw them off more than me speaking English. They're just like, oh, was not expecting that.
When did you go?
I did my last semester of college over there in 16.
Oh, cool.
They had an exchange program with Bozeman, and I was basically done with school. I saved one class, so I wasn't wasting my time, but basically I just paid room and board and the flight over there. And,
School's free.
yep. And then the school was right outside of Oslo in agriculture, and my grandmother on the other side, I don't know why I'm pointing to you.
Well, it's kind of
My grandma Edith was a Tonby, and her family still has the Tonby farm over there, and it's like 20 minutes outside of Oslo and where I was. So I gotta go plow the same ground as my
Yeah.
great-great-grandfather, and then I did go to Bergen. I was gonna go up to Trondheim, but the rail was down, and I was like, I didn't feel like flying.
We came back down from Trondheim. We were going to take the train down, or the bus, I think. Carlene convinced me to take the Hurtigruten, the tour, the cruise ship. That was a trip. That was fun. That was so much fun. I was so glad we did that instead of getting on some bus or whatever it was that was gonna bring us back. And we had a cabin, and we finally figured out that because we had a cabin, we could go through any of the eating places for free, because we were buying at these little shops. So they had big smorgasbords, and we would go in and eat what we wanted, and that was a great thing too.
Yeah.
Couple of days, I think, down the coast.
I think they're both tired.
Are you ready to finish your movie now, Aunt Mary?
Yeah.
Thank